Hi, I'm excited to be here with Michelle Wellard, who is with Philadelphia Metro Wildlife Center. We're here to find out about all the wonderful things they do to help wildlife in Pennsylvania. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
What are some of the common reasons animals end up at the clinic?
Usually it's human-caused reasons, whether it's deliberate cruelty or accidental. For example, animals are hit by cars, birds fly into windows, domestic pets like cats tear up wildlife, animals are orphaned due to trees being cut down and habitat loss, things like that.
Okay. So what are some things people can do to prevent wildlife from being hurt by humans?
Keep your cat indoors or outside in a catio or supervised. Don't do tree work in the spring and summer. If you must do tree work in the spring and summer or cutting bushes, double check for wildlife living inside. Many times a tree is cut down and there's a family of squirrels or family of woodpeckers inside, and if you had waited till winter, they would be gone. Be careful when driving. If you see wildlife crossing the road or see something in the middle of the road, give us a call. If you find an injured animal and you're not sure what to do, you can always call us and we'll be happy to talk you through any situation.
What are some things people can do to help wildlife?
Keeping cats and dogs supervised, not letting them hurt animals, wild animals. If you have a window that birds tend to fly into, there are some great translucent stickers that we can't really see, but the birds can see, so they're not an eyesore for you, and that will prevent the birds from hitting the windows. Being careful when trimming hedges, making sure there's not a nest of birds inside, and generally being aware that and believing and understanding that wildlife is all around us. They live here too. We need to coexist with them. We're living in their world.
Exactly. What should someone do who finds an orphaned animal?
That's a really good question, because a lot of times people think an animal is orphaned and it's not. Animals sometimes treat their babies different than we humans might treat a newborn baby. So for instance, eastern cottontail rabbits, sorry about that, it's a crow. Eastern cottontail rabbits and white-tailed deer fawns, their moms leave them alone most of the day. The theory is her size and her body odor would attract predators, and counterintuitively, the babies are safer without their mother. So sometimes baby animals are alone, but their mom will be back to feed them and take care of them. Baby birds might fall out of their nest and can be placed back in the nest if you can reach it. But they do jump out of the nest a couple days before they can fly, and they spend a few days hopping around on the ground, finishing up learning to fly. And the parents are around, but you might not see them. So there's so many different situations with so many different variables. We are always happy to talk people through it over the phone. A lot of our work is done over the phone, either reassuring a caller that what they're seeing and observing is normal, or saying, no, this animal needs help. But if any animal, any baby animal has been in a cat or dog's mouth, if it is bleeding, if it has parasites on it, then it needs help and should be brought to a wildlife center.
Okay. When the birds are on the ground, is that their fledgling?
It depends. If they have feathers, even if they're a little fuzzy, if they're mostly feathered and can stand and hop, that's a fledgling, and he's like a toddler learning to fly. But if the baby bird can't stand up yet and is still fuzzy, he needs to be back in the nest. So he can be warmed up and placed in the nest if it can be reached.
Okay, and I know that there's
And if the whole nest, if the whole nest falls down, it can be repaired and replaced and put back up, and the parents should usually keep feeding the babies. So we're happy to talk people through how to do that, because we really want animal babies as much fun as it is to care for them. We want them to be with their own parents. Their own parents do a much better job than we do, and they were born to be with their parents.
Right, and so I know there's a belief out there that if you touch a baby animal, the parents won't come back. And that's not true. That's
right. That's an old wives' tale, because they think birds can't even really smell anyway. But you can imagine they're just like us. They're great parents. They want their babies back. Right. However, I would recommend wearing gloves anytime you handle wildlife, just for your own protection and the protection of the wild animal.
Right. Okay. Can you describe what it's like to release an animal back into the wild?
Releasing an animal is the best part. because that's where they belong. They belong in the wild. We don't want to see them in cages. We don't want to see them confined. And they don't understand that we're trying to help them. So for an injured adult animal brought here, it must be like being abducted by aliens. They don't understand what we're trying to do. Right. So people sometimes say, are they grateful? No. They're very angry and stressed and they want to get away from us, and that is fine with us. So I guess one of my favorites to release are birds, because they fly off so dramatically, and it's like, just perfect symbolism of freedom, and they're off and they're gone and you'll never see them again, but you know where they're out, where they belong.
That's wonderful. Okay, and do you have any suggestions of what people can do to make their yards more wildlife friendly?
Yes. Do not use lawn chemicals to manicure your lawn. That can cause birth defects in animals. Do not use mouse or rat poison even inside the house, because if a poisoned mouse is in your house, eats the rodenticide and goes outside, an owl or a hawk could eat that animal, and then there's 2 animals suffering, and it causes internal bleeding, which is a terrible way to die. Again, for yards, making sure leaving things natural as you can stand it is a great thing. Native plants, which will attract birds and pollinators, and even wood piles make nice habitats for wild animals. But if you don't like the unkempt look, as long as you don't use artificial chemicals on your lawn, you'd be doing wildlife a favor. And again, before you do any work on trees, bushes, lawns, look for wildlife and make sure they're not there. When you're weed whacking, make sure there's not a nest of bunnies below. You'll see dry grass and some bunny fur, and they're all tucked underneath. We get weed whacked bunnies a lot and weed whacked box turtles. So just do a sweep before you do any yard work to make sure you're not interfering with any local wildlife.
Especially if you have tall grass, if you've let it go for too
yes,
long.
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Snakes, we get snakes that get weed whacked. Yeah.
And what can towns do to make parks more wildlife friendly?
I don't know too much about that, other than trying to encourage them not to use artificial chemicals. We've had birds that were born without eyes because of the lawn chemicals, and the mouse and rat poison. A lot of places, they don't understand. Maybe they don't like mice and rats. I don't think you should be killing mice and rats with poison, but not everyone agrees. But everyone likes owls. And if you saw a great horned owl seizure and die on the table, this big magnificent creature, because he ate a poisoned mouse, you would never do it again. Yeah. So the other thing they can do is encourage people to just appreciate that wildlife is all around us. Just because we get a lot of calls that people say, I saw a fox, can you come and get it? No, he lives there. If he was just going by, seeing wild animals is not a problem to solve unless they're hurt. So if parks can, partner with wildlife rehabilitators who have education departments like we have, to bring non-releasable wildlife to the community and teach people about it and teach them to coexist, that would be a great start.
Okay, great. And I know that I have a fox living in my neighborhood, and I saw him a lot during the day. And at first I was a little concerned because I thought that they were nocturnal, but that's not true, that they can be out in the daytime.
Yeah, just like us, we're diurnal, but sometimes we're out at night. It's not very strict. And also when it's the breeding season, which is right now when fox parents have babies, they're a lot more active at all times of the day. They have to do a lot of hunting to feed the whole family. So as long as your fox looks like he's on his way somewhere and he's not like laying down, looking sick, then there's nothing to worry about. Foxes are not vicious. They're seeing a fox in your yard is no more consequential than seeing a squirrel. Just don't handle it, because it could be, it's a rabies vector species. Right. But he's not going to attack you.
Okay, great. And if as horrible a thought as it is, if you did see a fox that you suspected would be rabid, what are things to look for?
If you see something large like a fox that's acting strange, you don't know if it's rabies, because sometimes an animal can have rabies and there's no symptoms you can see depending on what stage they're at. So any concern you have with a wild animal who is exhibiting concerning behaviors, give us a call. and we will talk you through it. We might ask you for a video, we might ask you for a picture, and we will help you figure out what the best course of action is.
Okay, great.
Because there's so many variables in wildlife situations. You know, there's a lot of common guidelines, but every situation is also different.
Yeah. Okay, and what are some of the main reasons that animals end up here in the first place?
Most of the reasons animals end up here are due to human causes. Mostly it's not deliberate, although there's sometimes cruelty. We had, you know, a Canada goose with a blow dart through his neck. But usually it's not deliberate cruelty. Usually it's just accidental. Hit by car is probably the number one. Caught by domestic cats is another one. That's also a human caused problem because it's not the cat's fault. It's the human who let him out. Impact injury, so a bird flies into a window or flies into some kind of hazard. Getting caught in something. We had an owl who got caught in a soccer net. We've had that many times. We had garter snakes who got caught in fencing. We've had robins stuck in netting that people use to cover their berries. So being caught or ensnared in some kind of unnatural material is another one. So all these, they're probably the biggest reasons that animals come to us. And then just random orphaned animals for whatever reason. If like a bird falls from its nest and it's too young to be a fledgling, and we cannot find that nest, we don't know where he came from, right. Something like that. So then at that point we would step in and try to raise that bird to be wild. So if you find an animal that is definitely injured, it got hit by a car, it's bleeding, it needs help, you can bring it right to us if you can do so safely. Human safety comes first. You can't help an animal if you're going to get hurt yourself. So depending on what the animal is, if it's something that's, you know, not really dangerous, you can just put it in a box, close the box, and bring it over to us. If it's something potentially more dangerous, you can call us for instructions, but generally what we'll say is, say it's a hawk or something, you would approach the animal with a box and put the box over the animal and then slide a piece of board on underneath, like you're catching a spider in a glass, and duct tape the whole thing up. And that way, if you're catching him without touching him, without danger to yourself, because those talons can go right through your hand. But again, always call us and we can advise. Sometimes the local police will be able to bring, sometimes local animal control officers will be able to bring animals to us, but generally it's the members of the public who bring animals to us. We don't have the resources to go out and pick things up. We're licensed by state and local and federal government, but they don't give us any money. They just give us regulations. So we're a nonprofit, we're on a shoestring. So the way we think of it is, these wild animals do not belong to us, to any of us. I have the hospital, I have the knowledge, I have the medicine. You have the animal and the transportation. So can we partner for you to get it here to me, and I will take care of the rest. We don't charge money, although we appreciate donations, and we will never turn an animal away who's in need. If it's a dangerous situation, we don't want anybody to get hurt. So definitely call for advice first. Don't try to do heroics and get yourself hurt. All right. The animals we get the most of probably are baby squirrels and baby birds, but we also get baby possums, baby raccoons, baby bunnies, adult squirrels, raccoons, possums, geese, pigeons, every kind of bird, woodpecker, owl you can think of. So all the Pennsylvania wildlife we take care of.
Okay. And I know that a lot of people are afraid of opossums, or they just think that they're ugly, so they don't have the same compassion for them as people tend to for the cute fuzzy ones like bunny rabbits and,
right.
and owls and other animals. But they're a very important part of the ecosystem.
They very much are, and I don't suggest that we judge animals on the basis of what they can do for us. They have their own lives and their own reasons for existing. However, possums are very useful. They live very low to the ground, and they eat so many ticks and so much dead stuff, and they clean up the environment, and they do a great job. And then theoretically, although any animal can contract rabies, possums are pretty much thought to be immune because of their low body temperature is the theory. And there hasn't been a case of a rabbit opossum in I don't know how long.
Right.
And yeah, we don't appreciate animals just because of their appearance. You know, they coexist along with us. And some people really do think opossums are cute.
Oh, I think they're adorable.
And they're so harmless. All they do is they'll snarl at you and drool and pass out. Unless you put your hands on them, then you could get a nice bite.
Right. No, I think they're absolutely adorable.
They're so cool. So this is a young garter snake who was caught in some kind of fencing or netting, and he has a wound on his side, which we're treating with basic wound care, and it's healing really well. He may have some cosmetic damage, but we don't think it's going to impact him. And he is going to be released very soon as we reliably have warm weather. We think he'll be ready by that time, and he'll be ready to go. This is a great horned owl who we think was hit by a car. He is a hunter, and he luckily does not have any broken bones. We think he's just suffering from head trauma, which is a concussion, and he's doing a lot better. We think he'll be able to be released very soon. We treat him with anti-inflammatory pain medicine, fluids, and what's known as just supportive care, rest and food. It's very important that we release him soon because due to his weight, we think he's a male, and he probably has a partner and babies in the nest. And both parents feed the babies, so it's very important for him to go back and start hunting again, and we're hoping to do that this weekend. This is a opossum, or Virginia opossum. He had two problems. He was very thin, and we think he also was struck by a car, but he was having a very hard time in the cold weather. Here in the Philadelphia suburbs, this is the topmost of their range. They're more southern animals, so sometimes they really don't do well in the cold. So he was emaciated and injured. So we had two goals: fixing his injuries and putting some weight on him. And he looks good, and he will also be released when it's reliably warm and we know there's going to be more plentiful food for him, and he doesn't have any danger of frostbite, because they're very prone to frostbite. We're very big fans of pigeons here, and we save a lot of pigeons, including raising orphan pigeon babies. But this guy is an adult and somehow broke a wing. We don't know how, but he was wandering around and somebody caught him. If you can catch an adult bird, there's something wrong. So he had a broken wing. He had a fracture of his ulnar radius bones, and he had it wrapped for 3 weeks and pain medicine. Now his wing wrap is off, and we're going to be able to put him in an outside cage soon for flight conditioning so that he gets his muscles back up. And we think he has a very good chance of being released too.